Welcome back to Muscle TV. I'm here with Extreme Chef Peter Wright once again. Welcome,
Tony.
Pete.
How you going, mate? So what are we going to talk about today, Tony?
A lot of people think good nutrition is just for bodybuilders, but a lot of athletes in a lot of sports have learned our exercise. They've become bodybuilders within their sports, and they train and they play really, really hard. It might be footballers, rugby players, soccer,
So like
basketball,
contact sports, netball.
contact sports, running sports, netball for the girls, anything where you're exhausted and sore. Then people often ask, what do you do on game day? What should you eat? When should you have your protein? So today we've set out a whole game day plan for all the athletes that are not necessarily bodybuilders that play contact sports or exhaust themselves doing hours on the pitch or the field or whatever their sport may be.
So back in the day, Tony, when I played footy, my nutritional plan was, to go and have a pizza and drink as many beers as I could to recover.
Well, it's funny you should say that because a lot of players still do that, and particularly with suburban footy and not the top level stuff, but the next level down where they take it really seriously and play really hard. They also go out and party really hard and drink really hard.
There you go, with your mates and stuff.
You do, and it's not all bad. Sometimes it's great for bonding and everything else. We're always talking about self-improvement on Muscle TV, and this is for someone who wants to play a bit harder, to last a bit longer, to be able to play in the third and fourth quarter or the fifth set in tennis, if it may be, and what's the optimum way to eat to be the best you can be. So if you're happy doing what you do, just keep on doing it. But if you want to improve and be the best you can be, then you've got to have a look at your nutrition on game day. And hopefully we can give you some hints here to help you to improve.
Well, that's right, Tony. And we start off with good quality grain bread for breakfast, or oats, one of your favourites, or if you want, mid-morning, you go to a very light stir fry. So not a big bowl of pasta, which is going to sit heavily on your stomach, but just a nice bit of rice and some fresh vegetables, a bit of chicken.
Bit of chicken, yeah, just a little bit of protein, so you've got the protein just seeping into your body, but as you said, you don't want to fill your belly up too much, so if that's too much, just start with half of that and see how it feels.
Just before the game, or maybe an hour before the game, a bit of fruit.
Yeah, it could be one or two pieces, just once again, what's comfortable. People seem to like bananas on game day. Banana gives you good energy, high in potassium, so it helps to keep you very hydrated. And then you move into the rooms and you do your warm-up, and that's probably a good time to sip on a bit of Powerade or some kind of sports drink, and just to keep your hydration ready to go, and to sip on that during the game.
And I know when I played footy, we always had an orange at half-time, so there must be a bit of sense in that.
Do that at quarter time, bring it in earlier in the game, and if you're going to have some lollies and stuff, don't wait till after the game, do it during the game, so your blood sugar stays nice and high. So at each quarter time break, or in between sets of tennis, or in between different bouts, or whatever you do, you've got to do that and keep the simple sugars in, because you can't digest big amounts of protein or big meals a game, but you don't want to get flat. You want to keep that energy up right through whatever sport you're playing. So it's important to be rehydrated and to keep the sugars up.
Yeah, so Tony, now we've got through the game, and most of us are pretty good getting there, but what happens after the game? What's most important straight after the game?
A lot of people go off the rails, and in my time working in the AFL, when I first started, they'd bring out trays of ham sandwiches, which was probably not ideal after the game, and we started to integrate protein drinks into it. Now all the clubs are doing it, not just in football, but in fighting sports and in tennis and netball, and a whole lot of different athletes that get really exerted during the game understand the importance of protein, and you want a good blend of proteins. So something like Super Whey straight after the game. Now I've got two shakers there, Pete, and you might ask why. One, as soon as you get off the ground, literally when you're doing your stretches and you warm down, you start sipping on your protein straight away. I always talk about that window of opportunity where your body's going to suck up the nutrients that are available. This is going to really help with your recovery. So much so that if you're a running sort of player, that first one, your body's going to suck it up like that. It won't even touch the sides. It won't even make it to your stomach. It's just going to get sucked into your bloodstream before you even digest it. And that's where the second one's in place, to sip on in your car when you're on your way to your next meal, just to have a second protein shake, just to sip on, so you've just constantly got those nutrients getting back into your body. And the difference this will make to your recovery is absolutely incredible. This is probably the most important part of it, is don't eat crap straight after the game. Get some good nutrients in. A lot of guys and girls in different games will go straight to the tuck shop after the game and get into the hot dogs.
Nice
nothing
sausage
worse.
roll.
Sausage rolls, hot dogs, buckets of chips, all these sort of things. Super snakes and lollies and all these things. And it's not ideal, it's not doing you any good. It's much more important to get a protein shake or two protein shakes into you. And then as the day goes on, we'll cover some of those foods that you can get into, but post-game, it's really serious to get good nutrients into your body so you recover, so you can train harder the following week, get over your game soreness and move forward. So an hour or so after you train, that's when we want to have something like this. What have you prepared?
Right. One of our favourites, spaghetti bolognese. It could be a kangaroo bolognese or whatever you like, but it's a lean mince with some vegetables through it and just some boiled pasta. So very, very simple. You could put some Parmesan cheese on that if you like.
Look, on game day, that's probably important because it's quite salty and you need the minerals to go back in your body, your potassium and your sodium and all that to help you to rehydrate. So it's not a bad thing to have something a bit salty after the game. In fact, when you move on to your next meal, and this might be 2 hours later, you catch up with your mates after footy, you've dropped your bag off or whatever sport you play. We keep mentioning other sports because it's not just footy, it's all contact sports and physically active sports where you sweat and run. And what have you got there?
Well, there we've just got a lean steak, grilled steak and some fibrous green veggies, beans and broccoli, and some white rice. You can get this anywhere in any restaurant. There's a steak on every menu, grilled chicken, whatever you like, you can get it. So
yep, and a good alternative to your rice, if you don't have rice, is to get a baked potato instead of a whole lot of chips. You can have a couple of beers, fine, have a nice counter meal, no problem at all, and then once again, go home and get a good rest.
Geez, with all that, it makes you want to play footy again.
Now, just to qualify that, we're not saying everyone go out and have a counter meal and a few beers, particularly the young blokes. We're saying if you're playing at a top level and that's part of the wind down of your game, we're not saying don't have a couple of beers after the game and don't ever have a counter meal, because as the season wears on, as you play harder and harder, it can actually be good for your recovery. So be sensible. Certainly don't go out and get a skinful like you did back in your day, because that just stops you from recovering, stops you from rehydrating, and it's no good at all. So moderation in all things, listen to your body, but most of all, try and look at the whole game day, not just before or not just after, but the whole day to get it right, to make you a better athlete. And most importantly, if you're going to get one thing right out of all of this, you've got to have your shake straight after the game. And what I encourage the players I work with to do is to do it while they're doing their stretching, because they all come off and have a stretch, so before they even cool down, start getting those nutrients into the bloodstream.
So this is obviously game day, and you've looked after a lot of elite athletes, and I've done Commonwealth Games and Olympic Games. It's still important to follow this through during the week.
Absolutely. The importance of good nutrition for elite athletes, it's probably the most important part of their whole regime. Or even if you're playing some kind of sport at a suburban level and you just want to be the best you can be.
So if you want to get better.
You want to get better, you've got to eat clean. That's where it all starts, it's where it all ends. So if you want to be the best you can be, you've got to concentrate on nutrition. If you're happy just going about your business and just never improving, never recovering, then stick with it. But if you want to be the best you can be and maybe make it to the next level, then concentrate on your nutrition. There's one thing that we really can not stress enough, and that's the importance of your protein shakes straight after the game. Now, we talked about Super Whey. Super Whey is not just good on game day, but all through the week, to have that every night after your training, to have it after every training session, before bed. Great for the guys. And for the girls, we've got Maxine's Burn. Now, that's a little bit faster acting. It's got some fat burners, thermogenic protein for the body, which the girls love. And we talk about football and all that sort of thing, but girls are playing all sorts of sports, from contact sports with fighting, to netball, to tennis, to all sorts of sports and running and triathlons and all these things. You can't get enough protein. And that's what's going to help you recover to be a better athlete. Pete, that's just about it for this week. Great to see you in the kitchen again.
Yeah, it's been good, Tony.
And we'll see you all after the break.